So you're wondering if right now at the moment you're being led to your spiritual being, to this realm of you being in the highest self, right? So these are gonna be 11 signs that you're actually in treating your higher self, right? Have you been noticing that lately you've been feeling some sort of different way? All of a sudden your days have feel better, you feel more open, you feel more embraced on abundance, right? Do you feel like everything is kind of like much more important? You're becoming yourself like an important person, and now you're becoming free, open, free from instead of you focusing like on the necessary things, you're kind of just focusing on yourself and just being like authentic, right? Just being a human, being the human that you can be, right? And just kind of like the person that you should be, meaning that you're working on your purpose, you're working on the things, and you feel like everything is just kind of like coming to alignment to you, like everything is coming into you in the sense where you're doing everything right and everything is working out for you, right? So this thing is that everybody feels these things, right? Everybody feels these things, but they don't know like what's actually going on. Like they're not self-aware, they're not like you know appreciating, or they're not really taking advantage of this like freedom themselves, because this feeling, if you take advantage of that and you actually start improvising everything on your life, continuing every day what makes you feel that way, now your life is going to be different. Like you're going to be at the best state of mind always, and nobody can break that away from you, right? So number one is that you're specifically dedicating time into things that are such as productive, purposeful, and consciously, right? So number one is kind of mostly talking about like what you do throughout the whole day. Like you're being aware, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're working on this, you're working on that, you're working on yourself, you're working on your mind, you're working on your people. Like all these things contribute. Like all these things matter. All these things really matter because you're investing time into them, and you're being aware of all the mistakes, of all the weaknesses that are surrounding in that and those things, and now you're making it fixed, you're making it better, you're being efficient with your time. And not only that, it's not just working, but just being making it better, right? Making it in a way where now your environment needs to be like this in order for you to feel comfortable, right? Does that make sense? Like like instead of your car being unwashed, you took it to the car wash to make it wash. Does that make sense? So instead of it being dirty, now you made it cleaner, which now it makes it more beautiful, and everything is like much more sincere with you, right? So you're just being dedicated to your time. Number one is like you're just being dedicated to your time. Number two is that you feel busy. You feel busy. You feel short, and you feel like we live in a life of urgency, right? And this is completely normal. Like this is normal. Now, what your mind is thinking is that, hey, we need to do this. Okay, after that, you need to do this. But it's not in a sense where your mind is kind of like controlling you or you're controlling it. It's just things that you do that make you feel productive, make you feel good. And there's always been a difference between you becoming productive and being busy, right? A lot of people think being busy is being productive. No, being busy is just things that you're supposed to do, you're forced to do, right? But being productive are things that you want to do that are making you productive. They make you productive in the sense where, you know, well, now you're working on yourself. Now you're working on your house, like whatever it is. Like you're working on yourself, right? Basically, let's call it like that. You're working on yourself, right? So number three is that you start recognizing all the problems and all the bad habits that you have, right? You start to have this real awareness. Okay, you know what? Maybe I am in the phone too much. When I wake up, maybe I do feel tired because I don't eat properly. Maybe I should stop eating fast food. Like you start realizing all these bad habits, all these problems surrounding you, and you don't really like put too much pedestal on them. Like you don't get affected by the problems, but rather than it kind of motivates you to do for you better, for you to do better, right? Maybe you're not going to the gym enough, right? And you kind of like, okay, maybe I can create a schedule, and I can work on that, right? So you're starting to recognize all the bad habits, and clearly enough, you're making sure you're like at the best. you're at the best, right? You're working on your attributes, right? So number four is that you start cutting toxic relationships. Now you start realizing who's really toxic, who's really negative, and who's trying to control the best out of you. And you're tending to like have this second thoughts like, oh my gosh, like why am I hanging out with this person? This person, all he does, or she, him, or she is like being unnecessary negative, right? They're always being negative. They don't do anything in their lives. They don't align with what I want to do. And, you kind of become like this person where you're being really, really selective on who you really want to hang out, right? Or you're being distant, right? You're being rather distant to that person, right? So number five is actually referring to the same thing. You only trust a few people, right? And those few people, right, you want to make sure those people are been there for the longest, or just give you like this energy where even if something goes wrong, you can depend on them, right? You can rely on them, and it's kind of like a sort of like trustness, right? So this trustness always comes when you do have to come out with it, right? You do have to like come out with an opportunity of a person that you can trust on, and you trust that person, but you only trust a few people. You don't trust everybody. You only trust a few people that specifically have made an impact into your own life, right? The number seven is that you're kind of insecure, but at the end of the day, you're still bold. You're still outrageous, outgoing. You're still talkative. You're still improvising on yourself, but you feel insecure about your goals, about your dreams, and this is completely normal. Like, you start feeling insecure because now you're starting to really think about your goals. Now you're starting to really think about your dreams, and it's not because you're putting your goals over you or you putting yourself over the goals, but it's like kind of like in a certain way where you're thinking about all this stuff that you're actually thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, like this is actually coming through. Okay, like, am I ready for this? Or like, no, you start having those thoughts. You start to realize that everything is coming to alignment with you, but you start asking yourself like secondhand questions, and it's completely normal, right? Once you enter this realm, and once you enter like this like new space for your mindset or just for yourself, you're normal, you're naturally striving to ask yourself questions, right? It's normal. Like, it's completely, everybody is curious. Everybody is, everybody, we live in an unpredictable world, right? And that's kind of what it is. Like, you start having this unpredictable like questions. You start having to have this unpredictable emotions about it, and it's completely normal, right? But at the end of the day, man, like, let's still stand true to what we are doing and what we're trying to do, right? But this is not something that you're really like feel really insecure. You just feel it really insecure, like, question wise, right? You're starting like overthinking, curious wise, and now it kind of like dictates everything that you're trying to figure out the answers for, right? So number eight is that you start making your own decisions. You don't have any approval from nobody else. You start making your own decisions. You want to do what you want. You want to make sure you have that free will. You're taking advantage of your freedom, and that's what it is. Like, you're just taking advantage of your freedom, and that's completely normal, right? Instead of you asking, social media, instead of you asking your parents, asking your brothers, or just your friends in general, people that you hang around with, like, for approvals or just questions and decisions to make, now you're starting to make sure, like, I can be conscious enough to make best decisions for myself. And once you get to that point, like, now you're starting to just kind of like have like this prevention of you, like, whenever you want to start doing something, like, you stop asking people, you stop asking your friends, your family, and typically you just do it. Like, you just typically do it. You don't say anything, and you just make your own decisions, right? So, and number nine is that you easily can overcome sadness. You easily can overcome sadness, and it comes to a point where not even being sad is come like to an effect with you, right? You don't become sad. You just become a much more aware person. Yeah, you start thinking about, okay, you're being in a much more grateful state and a much more appreciative state, and that kind of what um, yeah, makes everything much more easier for you, and you don't let no emotions get over you, right? So number 10 is that now you're being much more persevered, and your work is steady. Now your main focus is on your objectives, it's in your mission, it's in your dreams, it's in your goals. You finished. You wanna work on this, perfect. You wanna work on that, perfect. You wanna work on this, perfect. You wanna work on that, perfect. Like you start like kind of just relocating your thoughts into the things that should be mattered and the things that actually like you should have to take care of, right? And number 11 is that you always strive for more. Once you finish a goal, it's kind of like 10 and 11 is kind of connected together. Once you finish that goal, you strive for more, and it's kind of come to unlimited potential because now, since you're connected to your higher self, think about it like this: your higher self successful, so you're successful as well, right? So whenever you succeed in something, all the successful people are just gonna keep overcoming the successful princesses, right? So you just feel excited more about your life, more about your pathway, instead of you feeling excited about your success, the money, the cars, like all that stuff, all the assets that come in the way. Rather, instead of you just become more appreciative, more grateful about what's going on inside, man. But yeah, we live up to that, brothers. Let's leave the dimension expansion with some new game and let's implement to this real world. Be wary of every word that I mentioned. Be wary of every sentence or every sign that I have mentioned for you because you're watching this video for a reason. 11 signs for you.